Ed watched the feed again for the dozenth time. There wasn't much to see. First, a room filled with spacesuit-clad explorers, providing measurements on their velocity and approach speed. Then, a flash of light. Then, nothing. The sound that echoed from the speakers just before the feed cut off was a wild roar, a half-second of ear-splitting chaos, before cutting off entirely. By now, the mood in the observation deck had changed from abject panic to a deep, poignant silence. The room was filled with headstrong scientists who almost always had an opinion on a problem, who normally shouted over each other to make their voices heard. Now, they simply stared, their jaws hanging limply open, their faces pale. "Show me again," said Ed. "This time the camera from the engine room." "I've already checked every camera," said Paolo. "It's the same from every angle. The ship's gone, boss. There's nothing left to tell us what happened." "The largest craft in human history has just vanished without a trace. You're my chief engineer, Paolo. You can't give me anything?" "This is not an engineering problem." "Whose problem is it then? There were 300 people aboard Ark 1. That's 300 families that are going to want answers." Paolo didn't answer. No one did. They were looking at blank screens. Ed felt his phone buzzing in his pocket repeatedly. Calls and messages were already coming in from just about every single shareholder that his company had. He had no doubt that global headlines were already being written. Their camera feed was being streamed for anyone to access. At the last count, there had been just shy of 1 billion people watching Earth's first colony ship make its descent towards Mars. This was going to be a global outrage on a scale unmatched in history. The last few months, Ed had been appearing on news channels, being broadcast in just about every language he had ever heard of, and he had said time and time again that the mission design was foolproof. His dreams were in tatters. His company would be dead by tomorrow. Their settlement program would be stopped at once, and God knew how long it would be before the world dared to make another one. The entire course of human history had just been put on hold through one moment of unexplained disaster. Suddenly, there was a murmuring in the back of the observation deck. Ed turned away from the main screen to see that 3 of his team were deep in conversation, frowning over something that they were looking at. "If you've got answers, tell me now," he said. Yi Ting, his communications officer, opened and closed her mouth 3 times. She looked down at the screen, then back at Ed. "We just need to check something," she said. "What we're looking at doesn't make any sense. Let us just make double sure we're interpreting this correctly." "Tell me." "It can't be right, sir. Honestly, I'm sure there must be interference." "For the love of God, tell me, or people in this room will start to lose their jobs." "We're getting a new signal, sir. It's on a different frequency from the ship's comms, but it's completely legible. Someone is speaking to us." "Play it. Maybe there's someone still alive up there." Yi Ting nodded, though she looked pale, like she'd seen a ghost. Scientists, thought Ed. He spent far too much time surrounded by people who took all of their lessons from logic. They could make wonders happen when they applied their brains towards a problem, but when things went wrong with their reasoning, it was like they couldn't compute it. Like they were being told that 2 and 2 equals 5. There was a crackle of static as the communication was patched onto the main screen at the front of the office. There was no video feed attached, just an oscillogram that rolled and shook as the signal was picked up by their receiver.